students?
No, there are other students who already signed up and paid for the course. It's just that they're not here today. And that's the funny thing because they've paid for the course. In fact, I actually recommended them not to enroll on this particular course, but they did. They were here a couple of weeks ago, but I think that they're going through a rough patch right now because most of them are still students and they are dealing with like end of term, like exam revision and things like that. So,
Yeah, today I'm ready to be
mm,
shredded to the bone. Yeah,
all right.
I'm
I
ready
mean,
now.
you sound like you're ready. Well, but that's not the point of today's lesson because this is, in a way, a revision lesson. So we're gonna punctuate, long periods of intense training with revision sessions. So, well, let's see what I can offer you in terms of shredding you to pieces. So, because this is a revision lesson, we're going to go through some familiar topics and answers, right? And each exercise here has a particular point, but they always do, right? I'm the issue, not the exercises. Sometimes, like when I write materials, I have certain objectives with regard to what I want to achieve and what I want students to see. But like as I'm going through the lesson, certain things just randomly slip off my mind. But okay, I think that I've got a firm grasp of what I'm supposed to go through here. Now, in the first part of the lesson, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. As you can see, we have two very familiar topics, but of course, I'm definitely gonna need to. I was thinking about changing the nature of the questions, but like that's too much work for me. So perhaps I can just shift the burden onto you. You can, adopt a new, personality and identity to address these questions. Okay.
Yes, of
Because
course.
for instance, you're not a student, but I would ask you, this particular question, which is supposed to be, well, for students, and you're going to answer it as a student. Okay.
Gosh,
Um, so the first
yeah.
point is that you need to extend the following answers by yourself. So you read through the words, and then you try to give me what you would consider to be appropriate extensions, right? That's a very important skill to possess when you take the speaking test. And then we're gonna go down here to match these cues with the rest of the answers. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's talk about study here. How much time do you spend studying every week?
Uh, let's see. I'm a third year student, so I got quite a lot on my plate. I don't study in a traditional sense, but I easily spend 10 to 15 hours a week outside class to, reading more materials and researching new ideas.
Hmm.
Also, as a lexophile, I'm also always studying new vocabulary in order to prepare for my exams.
Is it better for you to study alone or in groups?
I think it depends. For exam revisions, I feel like it's better to go at it by myself, and it's just because I need to fully concentrate on cramming all the knowledge and revising all the lessons to prepare myself to prepare the best from the exam. But for for other I think for other situations, I will study with my friends to
Hmm.
in
Thank
order
you.
to get some feedback from them. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's talk about work. How much time do you spend working every week?
I have never really thought about this. Someday I
Mm,
work around the clock, especially when the exam comes. Because I'm now serving as a part-time teacher beside being a student. So I need to participate in writing tests for the center. And But if I estimate, it would be like about from 40 to 50 hours a week.
Mm. Do you often work from home or travel to work?
Well, it depends. I think that my job requires a bit both. I mostly work remotely, which is pretty flexible. All I need is to sit somewhere with my laptop and a mouse, and I can handle every task that the centers uh, gives me. But
Thank you.
sometimes, yeah,
Thank you.
mhm,
Right. There were two mistakes. Sense.
sense. Mhm.
Mm. And then prepare the best for my exam. You can just say I prepare for my exam or prepare for the exam. The best way that I
For
know
the,
how to. It's
yeah.
a tricky phrase, I do have to say. I
Mhm.
mean, when I was younger, I think that I also encountered, this sort of issue, grammatically speaking. And well, I still relapse from time to time. It's just that, since I've become a lot more experienced in the department of speaking and, navigating grammar rules, I've learned to perhaps, stick with better structures. Mm,
Better
Okay.
structures.
Okay. I think that your answers were lovely. Hello, Chung. How are you? Hold on. Let me send you all the link.
Uh,
Hello. That's the only thing you have to say after not having, seen your adored teacher for such a long time. Quite literally nothing to say.
Well, well, what I want to confess is that having to be identified as the student in this case is really difficult for me. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you get over it. I mean, as you can see, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever.
yeah,
I can't even fake it. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. In the past, I was so compassionate, but I feel like at this particular age, you either do what I require you to do, well, or you don't do it, but then I won't give you any sympathy. I can acknowledge your struggle, but definitely no points for sympathy.
yeah, of course.
Mm. Okay, you can hop on the file now, and I'd like you to match the cues here with the rest of the answers. Okay. Now, Chung, please, you can have a look at this, and I'm definitely going to ask you to do something here. You need to pull your weight.
mm,
And Chung, can you please answer me in real words and sentences instead of just sound effects?
yeah, I see. Yes.
Mm. Okay, now the first one then. Not quite sure why I positioned the file like this, but well, it is what it is. The first one then, Chung, read and then patch the answers together. Let's see, I'm a third year student.
Let's see. I'm a third year student, so I have got quite a lot on my plate. I do have classes in the morning, sometimes from 7 to 12, and in the afternoon, I either have more classes or spend time studying and doing group projects in the library. So, roughly 6 hours a day and about 30 hours a week.
Let's continue. Is it better for you to study alone or in groups?
Um, I think it depends. For exam revisions, I feel like it's better to go at it by myself. And it's just because I can keep my eye on the ball, revising for the test rather than talking to my friends and getting distracted. But of course, for group assignments, discussions with other members are essential, and everyone needs to know that they have to pull their own weight.
Thank you. Nicely done. Oh, by the way, Tang, I forgot to mention your your answer for this particular question here was pretty good at the beginning, but then somewhere down the line you started, losing control and you just started rambling on, going back and forth between, words that just didn't make sense to me. So the first part was fine, but then, the latter part was awful by your standards, by the
Yeah.
way, not mine. So do something about that. Like, how should I say this? Like for students of this particular class, I always ask you to remember that, the first rule of thumb when it comes to the speaking test is that you definitely need to keep on extending your ideas in a sensible way, right? And after a few lessons, you all seem to get, a firm grasp of what that means. But then some of you just go overboard and start rambling nonsense, which is not exactly a plus in my opinion. I mean, like we know that you can speak, but can you control yourself? So Tang, that's something that you need to jot down and pay attention to as well. Like you can speak at length, but at this point, I don't think that it's an advantage anymore. It's a liability, and you need to get a firm grasp, of whatever it is you're doing in the speaking test. Okay. Okay, now let's continue. How much time do you spend working every week? Tang, read and then connect.
Okay, so I have never really thought about this. Someday I work around the clock, teaching classes from dawn to dusk, which is actually nice because it means I'm earning a good paycheck. Some other days I only teach 4 hours, so I have to get creative and do other things like writing posts and editing videos. So let's say about 40 to 50 hours a week.
Nice. Do you often work from home or travel to work?
Well, it depends. I think that my job requires a bit of both. I mostly work remotely, which is pretty flexible. All I need is a laptop and good Wi-Fi connection. I'm set. But I travel to my classes from time to time, and what I like about it is that I can do practical experiments. It's always a bit chaotic, by the way, but the kids love doing hands-on activities, and I can just temporarily stop the activities if they get out of hand.
Flawless victory without breaking a sweat. Okay. So, I suppose what I'm trying to convey through, these answers is that, like, sometimes you need to check whether your ability to extend your answers is actually working properly. Because, in the speaking test, and also when you're like communicating with people in general, you need to develop your ideas appropriately. Right. So for instance, in the first question here, let's see, I'm a third year student, so I've got quite a lot on my plate. After this particular idiom, the best thing to do is to briefly explain what it means to have, a lot on your plate, right? And the same thing applies to, all other answers. For instance, when you say, well, I mostly work remotely, which is pretty flexible. Obviously, you should give a bit more details with regard to why this particular approach is, flexible, right? So, yeah, that's the purpose of these answers. Well, Jung, you were not here at the beginning, so I couldn't check your ability to use some of the words that you were taught. And as for Tang, I don't think that you were exposed to, these scripts before. So, well, I guess both of you have managed to dodge a bullet, right? Okay, let's continue. Now, we're gonna move on to the next segment. My AirPods. Well, my right AirPod. I lost my left AirPod almost a couple of years ago. Yeah, but this one has, stuck with me for such a long time. But well, it's on only 10% of battery, so I think that I'm gonna need to unplug it and charge it sometime. Okay, anyway, so let's move on to the second segment. And in this particular part, the emphasis is on chunking, right? I give you chunks. Yes, I'm looking at chunks right now. I'm not quite sure if, these chunks make sense to my eyes because they don't. But these are chunks of words, and your challenge is to rearrange the fragments that you're looking at to form complete answers. Of course, they have to, sound sensible. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, I have always struggled with this particular question type. I mean, I'm only, chopping my own answers. I'm only chopping them up, but I can't seem to, reconnect them. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess. So let's hope that the both of you could help me with this because I don't think I can pull through this exercise. Now, I'm gonna give you all about 30 seconds to look through the words and then connect the dots. All right, best of luck. Okay, well, Chung, give us your best shot. Is your area quiet?
Well, I would say so. I'm living in a small apartment with my mom, and it's slightly run down. And even though the buildings is located next to a big road, um, it's pretty peaceful. The building is surrounded by big leafy trees, which help to block out the noise. And but what's great about the buildings?
Just have to roll with it. What's great about the building is that it, I
I
guess, radiates vibes of buildings that were constructed in the past. I think that you misarranged, a sentence somewhere. I mean, obviously, because this should not be the last sentence, right? You can say that, I guess, but what's great about the building is that, right? Is that the number 6 is here, is that it is surrounded by big leafy trees which help to block out the noise, right?
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna do it again. Ah, I can actually be of help in this exercise. I just have a pat on my shoulder. Now, come on. Is your area quiet?
Well, I would say so. I'm living in a small apartment with my mom, and it's slightly run down. Even though the building is located next to a big road, it's pretty peaceful. But what's great about the building is that the building is surrounded by big leafy trees, which help to block out the noise.
Nice. Let's continue. Another 30 seconds for the next question here.
I think I'm ready though.
Okay, come on. Do you prefer to study or work in a quiet or noisy place?
Well, I would go with the former. In the past, I used to like studying at noisy places because I often studied with my friends who would rendezvous at a popular coffee shop in the old quarter every week to revise. But as an adult, I find it really hard to concentrate where there are other people chatting next to me. I need total silence when I'm writing tests or planning complex lessons.
Nice. You were also able to improvise off the cuff. That was good. No comment. Everything sounded logical. So let's continue. Next one, 30 seconds. Okay, June, please. Do you prefer to go to quiet or noisy areas in the evening?
Well, I don't know for a fact. Young people probably would enjoy it
You
because
have to start with I would actually rather the latter.
I would
That's number one already.
I would actually rather uh
The latter.
the latter. Wait, I would actually rather than a latter.
Mm. Continue. You see, I tend to teach in the evening, so
Uh,
I don't
I
get
don't
to spend time.
crowd places that often. Whenever I have time off in the evening, I always goes to big shopping mall or a nice restaurant. Uh,
The
the comings
comings.
and goings of people make me feel like I'm a part of fun city life as well.
Let's do that again. Do you prefer to go to quiet or noisy areas in the evening?
Well, I would actually rather than the latter. You see,
Oh,
I
no,
tend
no, no, not rather than the latter. I would actually rather the latter. What kind of grammar
rather
was that?
rather the latter.
Hmm.
I actually I will I would actually rather the latter. You see, I tend to teach in the evening, so I don't get to spend time in crowd places that often. Whenever I have time off in the evening, I always go to a big shopping mall or a nice restaurant. Um, the comings and goings of people make me feel like I'm a part of fun city life as well.
Well, I was not happy with your start, so let's do that again. Do you prefer to go to quiet or noisy areas in the evening?
Actually, rather the latter. You see, I tend to teach in the
Hold
evening.
on, that you see is diabolical. I've never taught anybody, anywhere, anytime, that kind of you see. That you see is only a filler. You're not supposed to give it so much attention. You're not supposed to shine a spotlight on it. You're only supposed to say, I would actually rather the latter. You see, I tend to teach in the evening. Not you see, it's just you see, just go down. Let's do it again. Do you prefer to go to quiet or noisy areas in the evening?
I'll actually rather the latter. You see, I tend to teach in the evening, so I don't get to spend time in crowded places that often. Whenever I have time off in the evening, I always go to big shopping mall or a nice restaurant. The comings and goings of people make me feel like I'm a part of the fun city life as well.
That you see still doesn't sound right, but we have to keep it moving. Let's continue then. Well, this one is reserved for you then, Tang. You have 30 seconds to put two and two together. Okay, you can start speaking now.
Okay, so I don't know for a fact, but I think it really depends on the generation and lifestyle. You see, young people would, probably would enjoy it because they find this environment dynamic and fun, whereas older adults might appreciate somewhere more peaceful so that they can rest, especially after a hard day at work.
Can you do that again? I think I missed a beat there.
Okay, I will do it again. I don't know for a fact, but I think it really depends on the generation and lifestyle. Some people probably would enjoy it because they might find this environment dynamic and fun, whereas older adults might appreciate somewhere more peaceful so that they can rest especially after a hard day at work.
Oh, okay, that's nice. You also added your own flair to the answer, which was natural. That's something you can do. Like, if repeating like the same ideas kind of bores you out, you can tweak these answer a little bit by adding one new extension or implementing 2 or 3 new idioms that you have learned. Okay, or you can also incorporate some of the ideas you consider to be typical and versatile. Nice. All right. Well, obviously, the purpose of this particular part is to essentially encourage you to learn sample answers in chunks of words. And of course, this ability should be applied to other forms of like interaction with English materials instead of just paying attention to one word at a time. You should learn to read one complete chunk of words which expresses one complete idea, right? And of course, when you speak, you should also abide by the same discipline. Even though I do have to say that it's definitely not an easy skill to master. And every once in a while, we do go off we do go off on a tangent and mess things up, right? But in general, this is the way to elevate your speaking skills, right? By learning sample answers or essentially like English materials in like sensible chunks of words, chunks of information. Any question thus far?
Not right now.
Okay, let's press on then. In the next part of the test, not the test, sorry, the lesson, we're going to go through another sample answer in speaking part 2. And then I'd like you to demonstrate the ability to use, this script in other topics. Okay, so this is the original script. Let me move it up a little bit, just so that you can see its totality on one page, right? So this script is about Anh Viên. I think that I have mentioned her more than a few times, and I've been talking about her relentlessly, despite the fact that I don't know her as a friend, and I also don't really keep tabs on what she does in her professional career as a swimmer, but I like talking about her. All right, so just go through the script, and then you guys will take turn essentially demonstrating your ability to incorporate the ideas in this particular script in other topics. All right. So the purpose is very clear. I want to challenge and also nurture your ability to use versatile ideas. Okay. Even if it means that you have to go off the beaten track. Now, describe a person who has inspired you. So, Tang, you can take the first half, and Tung, you can deal with the rest. You can start now.
So I would like to talk about Anh Viên, a very famous woman here in Vietnam. So she's a professional athlete, and swimming is practically what has put her on the map. Last year, she competed in a few competitions, and it's safe to say that she mopped the floor with everyone else. Earlier this year, she was nominated for several awards and also took home all the prizes. So I first got to know about Anh Viên about a couple of years ago. She was a swimming prodigy that suddenly got a lot of exposure. I saw her on the internet many times and came to see some of her videos on TikTok. The videos were really entertaining since they showed very interesting tips and tricks for people to improve their swimming skills, and I was trying to learn how to tread water.
Moving on to what she has done. Ivy is a professional athlete, so she trains a lot and competes in tournaments every once in a while. As far as I'm concerned, she has already scaled the heights and has nothing left to prove, but she keeps it going, swimming and competing. What I found really inspiring about Ingvian is that although she has achieved so much, far more than what I have managed to accomplish thus far, she still has this down to earth personality. She's rich, but doesn't come across as someone obnoxious. In her interviews, She's really spoken and humble. She address she addresses other people politely and jokes very often. She can brag out her achievements from time to time, but it's mostly tongue in cheek.
Cheek.
Tongue in cheek.
Mm. So that's a very nice idiom to talk about things that are meant to be, just for fun. It's a joke, essentially. Nice. So you have been, well, plowing this particular script. We're gonna move on then. So, as I've mentioned, one of the primary objectives of this particular course is to enhance your flexibility, in your ability to, see something that can be, can be like versatile in terms of, its ability to be used in multiple contexts, right? So now let's talk about the first one here. Describe someone who expresses their feelings well. Um, you don't really have to explain your approach to me because what I'm after is, a sort of demonstration. You just take a page out of, well, this particular script here, and then you can put your own spin on it. But I need to hear something related to this particular script. Right? That would also make sense in a new context. That's all. So I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to think about what you can say, and then give me a demo, right? Okay. Well, Kang, I'm going to throw you under the bus first.
Hmm?
Do you want to go through your mechanism first?
I think I would apply the idea of I would reuse the idea of she's very well spoken and humble because I think it will fit into the topic of expressing their feelings very well.
Okay.
And I think
Well,
also, yeah,
give me a demo.
okay, so let me see. I would like to talk about the famous swimmer Anh Viên. I know she's an athlete, but the person I've seen in interview is someone I find really inspiring, particularly in how she handles emotions, success. So I first got to know about her, like many people, by seeing her on the internet. I have watched many of her interviews on YouTube and recently clips on TikToks. In these interviews, she's not just talking about swimming. She's actually interacting with hosts and fans and sometimes elder people. And I find her to be always incredibly respectful in her videos. What I mean by expressing feelings well is that she managed to perfectly balance confidence with humility. You know, she has scaled the heights of her sport and mopped the floor with competitors. Yes, she has this incredibly down-to-earth personality. You know, she's very well spoken and humble. For example, she jokes very often, but is always kind and I would say self-aware. She never comes across as obnoxious, which would be an easy trap to fall into which would be an easy trap to fall into given her level of fame and wealth. I think I stopped.
Well, it didn't quite hit home for me. You did mention the fact that, well, you wanted to clarify what you meant as, someone who expressed their feelings well, but the way that you described her did not, illustrate that particular point at all. And the transition into that particular point was also very rough. No, it did not work. Well, your description of this person was fine, but your connection to the um emotionally expressive part didn't make sense to me. You might want to rearrange the details a little bit. He did say that, yeah, she knows how to express her feelings very well. You need to do something about that. Like, I need to hear more words related to her feelings, her emotions, right? For instance, you can say something like, what I like about her. Well, hold on, I have already got the answer, so I would like you to give it another go, just to see if you can, make things right. One more time, but you have only 1 minute.
Mhm.
Come on. You can start speaking now.
Okay, so can I redo the part about expressing things well instead of just starting from scratch?
Sure.
Okay, so what I mean by expressing feelings well is that she managed to perfectly balance confidence with humility. For example, as far as I remember, in a competition, she clearly mopped the floor with competitors and dominated the whole competition. But instead of showing all her full uh, enjoyment and I would say full enjoyment, she just smiled a little bit and just shows that she was really patient. Yeah, that's what
Nonsense.
I
Nonsense. It did not work. Oh my
Mhm.
God. Well, personally, I thought that this would be an easy task for you, but apparently that's just not the case. Well, you can just talk about the fact that, um, what exactly did you talk about again? So you talked about the fact that, in a competition, she essentially was mopping the floor with her competitors, but, instead of, showing her joy, not enjoyment, her joy, she only, smiled ever so slightly. That for me doesn't really drive home the message that she knows how to express her feelings. That's someone who can control their feelings, not someone who can, be expressive and things of that nature. So it didn't work for me. Oh, well, that's a no for you then. You need to work on this because this could have been a very easy extension. Let me give you an example. You could have said something like, what I love about Yuan is the fact that she knows how to express her feelings. Like the other day, she posted a video of her instructing people how to tread water, and she was super humorous during that video. She showed joy, right? She also showed a degree of embarrassment when she couldn't hold her head above the water. And for me, I found her emotional expressions really genuine and endearing. you know like, it could have been like anything. It could have been the fact that she came to an award show, and she was clearly jumping for joy in a literal sense. She was so happy, and she did not refrain herself from expressing her true emotions, right? It could have been her talking about her disappointment when not winning a swimming competition, and she was so candid about it, right? So, well, this was a test for you, Tang. I mean, I'm not trying um to make fun of you, but you definitely need to work on this, because this could have been an easy win for you. You could have like mopped the floor with this script, but then, oh, you got knocked on your the A word. Well, so I guess it means that my advice the other day still stands. You need to work on your ability to, generate ideas that would make sense. Using simpler words instead of hiding behind complicated arguments. Understand?
Yes.
That was disappointing. Talking about someone who expresses their feelings well. Okay, you can talk about something like, she was talking about her disappointment for not winning, for not getting first place, but she was super polite. She didn't try to undermine anyone else, but she was transparent with her feelings, and she promised that she would work hard to win, which she did a year later, right? In her video, she was like super expressive. She was embarrassed for not being able to keep her head above the water. And she was so joyful when completing a challenge. I thought that it was super endearing and genuine. Right? Okay, let's continue. Jung, please, the next topic here, describe a time when you searched for information on the internet. You have 30 seconds to think about what you can say, like how you can put your own spin on the script. Okay, Jung, give it a go.
Well, many months ago, my teacher required us to make a presentation about sport, and I've chosen swimming at my as a topic of my presentation, and I also choose Anh Viên, one of their most like famous athletes in Vietnam. And at the time, I didn't know anything about Anh Viên, so I decided to spend a whole night searching about her informations on the internet, and um, from that, I think I
And
use their.
no, you need to give me the demonstration. You can't just show me the way. I can't tell if you would be able to actually patch things together because you clearly lost your rhythm there. Now do that again from the top. You have to like do the connection. Show me that the script can be connected. Now, one more time. Describe a time when you search for information on the internet.
Well, many months ago, our teacher required us to make a presentations about sport, and I've chosen swimming as my main topic, and at that time I choose Anh Viên as one of their examples, but I didn't know anything about her, so I decided to search search about her informations uh, on the internet. While yeah, at the time she's a professional athlete, and swimming is particularly what has put her on the map, and she has won many like competitions and tournaments in her life, and um mm,
That was horrendous, really. I mean, I guess in theory, that approach was legitimate. I mean, when you said that you were doing research into, swimming and athletes in that particular sport, I thought it was fine. But I knew that, because of the fact that like this script was not the direct answer to this particular topic, you would definitely have some issues connecting the dots, and you did, which was why I required you to actually give me a reliable demonstration. I did not stop you when you started talking about England because I knew that you wouldn't be able to keep it up for long. So do it one more time. The direction was correct, but the final product was, well, nebulous in my opinion. I need something more solid instead of something that's like amorphous and uncertain. I'll do that again. So do that again. You can look at the script if you want, but you definitely need to make things make sense. And don't count on me to give you the benefit of the doubt. You have to convince me. Now, come on. So are you even in the room?
Yes. Okay, so many months ago, my teacher at school required us to make a presentation about sport, and I've chosen swimming as my main topic, and also Indian is their examples of this topic too. At that time, I didn't know anything about Indian, so I decided to um search about informations on the internet. Well, first when I like accessed Google and search for her profile, um um I found many sites and web that talk about her swimming career and about many like awards that she has achieved. Then and then I also look more details on her YouTube, and I have watched many videos about her um, competitions. I think it was in the Sea Game um, Sea Game championship.
Ah, what a wasted opportunity, Chung. Oh, you did not go anywhere. It's already been like 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you still didn't talk about her specifically. You had such a good start already. When you started, hold on, there's an ant on my arm. Anyway, you was in such a good spot, right? You mentioned her as the person that you were doing that presentation about. That was good. I mean, and then you should have just moved on to talk about her and what you found out about her, maybe her personal life and her career as a professional swimmer, right? But then you deviated and started, going going completely freestyle with a description of like finding out information and whatnot. What got into you? That was a horrible answer in my opinion. Well, Tum, you're not doing the test anymore, which is great. But Hằng, I'm only doing this to show you that was a good approach, but horrible execution. That's not how
Yeah.
you should learn and use ideas. I mean, you were in such a good spot, Tum, and you managed to fumble the ball, which was embarrassing in my opinion. But you're not doing the test anymore, so that's good, right? But you definitely need to like get a grip of yourself and perform well, in tasks like this because we've been through this more than a couple of times. Yeah. Look, when it comes to topics like this, if you have a good approach, make sure that you make full use of it instead of like testing your luck with something completely off the beaten track. I mean, I think that what he did was totally viable. It made sense, but it also missed the obvious opportunity to talk about something far safer and far more eloquent, right? You could have said something like, so we did a presentation on Ánh Viên, and apparently, she was this super famous swimmer who essentially like swept the floor with her competitors in virtually all of her tournaments. I mean, last year she won several gold medals, and she was also celebrated as the athlete of the year. So apparently, she had already scaled the heights, as far as my eyes could see. So we did a presentation about her. We went through her profile, and we, did like a quiz about her personal life. And when people learned about what she achieved, like everybody was blown away, which was so much fun to see. And overall, so on and so forth, right? You can go on and on and on about her and her professional achievements. You could have also mentioned the fact that, she had a TikTok channel, which was, full of fun videos. You can say that, at the end of our presentation, we also included the fact that, she had this, huge TikTok channel with like millions of followers where, she posted lots of videos, teaching people how to swim and how to tread water and things like that. So personally, I thought that the presentation went well, and my teacher also really liked our group efforts. So that was a win-win for us all, I guess, right? Ah, what can I say to you now? Well, Chung, you're fine, right? But unless you can see, that's a logical approach, but that was a horrible execution. Oh, okay. Research for presentation. You should link that to swimming, and you could shift the focus to a prominent athlete. You can talk about what you found out about her, which was the fact that, she was a super decorated swimmer with gold medals. Like last year, she essentially mopped the floor with her competitors, and she also swept the awards, right? And then you can say one thing or another just to buy some time, and then you can talk about the fact that, um she had a TikTok channel, right? And then so on and so forth. And if there's still more time for you to keep on speaking, you can talk about the fact that, so I thought that the presentation was great. I mean, we got what we came for. But after learning about Ánh Viên, I do have to say that, like, I have grown to like this girl even more because, like, she apparently is a very genuine person. Like, she expresses her like feelings very authentically, and she's not afraid of like showing her true colors. I mean, I still watch her like TikTok videos every once in a while, right? So you can always like cycle back to that original script as long as you manage to, punctuate that script appropriately with, bits of information regarding the original topic, right? Which was your search for information on the internet. Oh, well, it's okay, Chung, you have already sealed the deal with that score of yours, so you're fine. But Hằng, do you know what the real answer for this topic is now?
Hmm, not yet.
I'm showing you the real answer here.
Okay, so it
As in
relates.
the answer for the task that I required you to do. This is the one possible answers. One of the possible answers. There are
Yeah.
multiple options. Okay, well, that's the point. All right. I think that we still have a bit more content to go through, but the bottom line in speaking part 2 is that you can definitely just speak completely off the cuff, and that's fine. I like people who can, like construct very complicated arguments like on the spur of the moment, but I just don't think that, that's the best approach when it comes to the speaking test. So my advice is that you should try your very best to practice the skill to implement like versatile ideas in multiple contexts, right? And you need to learn to seize that opportunity to implement these ideas, because the moment you are able to tap into these familiar trains of thoughts, your speaking test is going to go a lot more smoothly. Not that this is the most important part of the test, but I mean, maintaining a positive impression is definitely part of the equation, right? So you need to do well in part 1 by extending your answers appropriately, and perhaps use an idiom here and there. Not that we need to count idioms and phrasal verbs, but try to use idioms every once in a while. And then in speaking part 2, your job is to make sure that you maintain the same positive impression, right? Because the moment you get ahead of yourself and mess up the speech, you're gonna have a hard time earn a good score. Okay, that's all. Any question for now?
Not really.
Okay, and we're gonna have a quick break. For the second script, well, it's essentially the same thing. Same thing. So we're not gonna beat this dead horse anymore. In the next part of the lesson, we're gonna go through longer ideas. And what are we supposed to do here? Read the following responses at each break. Try to think of a question to discuss the point and answer it. Okay, so in this particular part, what we're supposed to do is that we're going to have to learn to break ideas and think of follow-up questions that would make sense. Okay, but we're going to have a 10-minute break for now. All right, let's have a short break.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. People, can you hear me?
I still.
Okay, let's continue. So as I've mentioned in the last part of today's revision lesson, we're going to go through a few speaking part 3 questions. And what you're supposed to do is that, first of all, you need to think of a follow-up question that would make sense in this particular context. And then the person that's talking to you would have to try to answer that question, because that is something that lots of examiners do, right, in this particular part of the speaking test. Okay, so it takes 2 to tango, but I would very much like to stay out of this. So Tum, are you also in the building?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, well, I guess you two can volley answers. I'm gonna let Chung go first. Now, what qualities would make someone a good leader? So Chung, you're gonna read this, and then Hang, you can follow up with a question. Okay? That question must make sense in this particular context. Okay?
Okay.
Now, Chung, read it first. So, in our very first turn here, Chung, you're gonna play the role of well, the candidate that has this answer. So you have roughly 30 to 40 seconds to, gather your momentum, and then your tongue's gonna inject his answer, and then, well, you're on your own after that. All right, good luck. What qualities make someone a good leader? Chung, please.
Well, I suppose there are various elements to good leadership. At the forefront, I would say that having a vision is crucial. For instance, in a company, oftentimes directors and executives are those who all outline business plans, negoti- negotiating terms with potential partners, and deciding how budgets will be spent to achieve business goals. So, having a vision and being capable of lever- leveraging
Leveraging.
leveraging trends and strategic partnerships are more important for their companies to thrive.
Mm.
So, how important is it for a leader to be able to communicate that vision effectively to the rest of the team?
How important is it for leaders to communicate their visions to
The rest of the team.
the rest of the team? Okay. Well, Tum, good luck. This is your next question. How important? Tang, can you read the question, and then Tum, you can answer it.
How important is it for a leader to be able, sorry, how important is it for leaders to communicate their visions to the rest of the team?
Well, I think that it's very important for leaders to communicate their visions for the rest of the team. So that because, like, so for example, when the directors or like managers like sharing their plans to the worker, I think that they will know what they are doing, and so that they can. I think that they will be more like uh work more effectively.
Tang, are you satisfied with that answer?
Well, for your standard, I mean, for Bitcoin standard, I'm not really impressed.
Nonsense. I'm asking about your opinions. Are you satisfied with his answer?
Not really, because
Of course,
I,
it was
I, I,
bad.
I couldn't hear anything.
Well, Chung apparently, well, he said that he couldn't hear anything. So perhaps, again, you need to get to grips with the way that you speak, Chung. I understand that you're no longer taking the test, but look, somewhere down the line, you're gonna need that IELTS degree again. So instead of, treating your speaking skills as, something that's gonna end with a test, I do think that you need to stay more vigilant and actually speak with discipline, right? Because I was having a hard time understanding what you were trying to say as well. Right? Your pronunciation wasn't that clear, although you did try your very best to answer that deceptively challenging question. So Jim, could you do that again?
Um, well, I think that it is very important for leaders to communicate their visions to the rest of the team. Well, this is because when and they're like, for example, when their like director or management a manager like tell the workers about their plans of the business, I think that they will know what they are doing, and I think that they can work more effectively.
Thắng, what's your take on his answer?
I think it is better than his previous attempt.
Are you satisfied with that answer?
I'm rather satisfied, not fully.
Well then, since you're not fully satisfied with that answer, which question would you want to ask? Just to, clear things up.
I'm just thinking about that. I haven't had any question that comes up in my mind right now.
Okay, cool. So, well, I think that this question is pretty challenging. How important is it for leaders to communicate their visions to the rest of the team, to effectively, right, to effectively communicate their visions to the rest of the team? I mean, the obvious answer here is that, this particular task is of absolute crucial importance, right? Then how would I answer this question? Well, Tang, do you want to give this question a go?
I think I have give it a try. Okay.
Sure.
So I would say it's just as crucial as having a vision itself. I mean, a vision may be useless if it only exists in the leader's mind. And a great leader must be able to articulate a future goal in a way that is, in my opinion, clear, inspiring, and persuasive. I mean, they need to get everyone on board, making the team feel that their individual work contributes directly to achieving that larger shared objective. I know, I mean, without a buy-in, a vision is just a dream rather than being realized.
I thought that was a very nice approach. So you were talking about, how should I say this? You were talking about it in a direct way, and then you also, flip the coin to talk about, the role of disability, by discussing, the consequences of not being able to do this. Right? That was nice. For some reason, I was thinking about, certain business people like Steve Jobs. I thought that, the man was like super eloquent, and I really admire the way that he calmly broke down what he wanted his employees to do. And even though, his method was a bit controlling, I thought that, it was the necessary evil for, his staff and all the directors who worked under him and for him to, meet all of the important deadlines, which of course, played an important role in the success of, Apple as a tech giant. Well, I guess what I can recommend you to do would be to perhaps think of an example, right? Not that it's crucial, it's just that sometimes, there's certain questions that are really hard to deal with if you only rely on like theoretical reasoning. Like this particular question here. I mean, we know for a fact that it's important. This is something that comes with the territory, right? If you're a leader, you're supposed to know how to manage your team and communicate your ideas effectively, right? But I mean, for some of us, there's only so much to be said about, this particular matter. So you can think of examples instead. There are lots of leaders out there who are revered for their communication skills, right? Okay, good. Let's continue then. We're gonna move on to the next question. So we're gonna flip your roles, and Jung, you get to ask the question, right? Yeah. Tang, please. Why do people admire others, even strangers or celebrities?
Well, you're really picking my brains with this one. I mean, my guess is that a lot of us cannot really live the life that we aspire to, like living in a big mansion with fancy cars or having millions of dollars on at our fingertips. So we often look up to people that can afford these things.
Jung.
Well,
If you can't think of a question, you can just use the question that I have already prescribed here. Do you think?
do you think that admiring these individuals is a good thing to do?
Well, I think it can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can be motivational. I mean, seeing someone achieve great success can inspire us to work harder towards our own goals. However, if that admiration turns into jealousy or envy or an, even an unhealthy obsession with a lifestyle that is almost unattainable, it can be quite demoralizing. I mean, it can make people feel inadequate about their lives. So it is healthy that if it's used as an inspiration, but it can be damaging. It becomes a source of jealousy and discontent.
Discontentment.
Discontentment. Yeah.
Tum, are you satisfied with his answer? Essentially, he said that admiring like successful individuals could be like a double-edged sword, as in it can both benefit you or and harm you.
Oh, that is okay.
Oh, I thought it was fine. Yeah, I mean there was just a slip at the end, but that was fine. Right, let's continue. Oh, that's it. Well then, we still have a few more minutes to go. So, well, I think that this is not that big of a deal because in speaking part three, I think that both of you are aware of the fact that you might be stopped, in the middle of the track because examiners feel like perhaps your answer is off the topic or um they might feel like they want to like dig a bit deeper into certain aspects of your answers. So that's fine. Um, but I suppose we have achieved the goal of this particular segment. Have you got any question?
So when I learn maybe a script
Mm,
for speaking battery,
mm.
can I read it between the lines and then find some ideas so that I can create a question for myself and then answer the question that I have created it.
That's one thing you can do. If you're asking about whether you can do that or not, then that's a yes.
But do you think is that okay?
Have I done that myself? Maybe I have done that already. It's just that I don't create questions. I only subconsciously create questions when I practice, speaking on a topic at length without any preparation.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't actually make up questions because the IELTS questions are useful enough. And there's nothing wrong with using them. You might want to try to try to make up new questions, but for me that's just like reinventing the wheel. There's no need for that, but that's fine if that's what you enjoy doing.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna move on with the last challenge of today's lesson. I think that both of you are familiar with this. I'm going to give you a topic, and I would like you to talk about the topic that is chosen for you by this wheel of misfortune. Right? And of course, to do this, you need to like brainstorm ideas and like speak completely off the cuff. But of course, speaking completely off the cuff or speaking naturally is only a relative term. You can definitely resort to some of the more familiar ideas as you go along your answers. Just make sure that what you say sort of makes sense. Okay, so we're gonna start with Chung first. 5 minutes at most. We'll see how far you can go. Coffee shops. Okay. Now, remember, you can speak about this topic for as long as 5 minutes, and don't worry if I stop you. You can start speaking now.
Um, I like to talk about one of my favorite coffee shop, and which is a place that I visit very often, and its name is No 10. Well, it is a new coffee shop that has and it's only and it's has been open for nearly like 5 months. Well, at first mm, the first thing that I does come to my mind when think about the coffee shop is the atmosphere here. Well, the first time that I walk in, I'll be very satisfied about their like the warm smell and their smell and their smell of coffee beans, and also their the coffee shop also play some like soft music is, which makes the atmosphere very cozy and like relaxed. Um, and what I love most about this coffee shop is because it's very quiet, and um like mm, uh the coffee shop is located quite deep in a long and deep alley, so it is not very popular. So there are only very a few customers, so it's always quiet there, making it a very like suitable place for people to work or study. So I often choose to go to that coffee shop after school to do my homework or like doing some like project with my friends. Well, now when it comes to like their menu, there 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 aren't many types of drink. There are only like some types of coffee and tea, but the main drinks is a um coffee. They have like usual drinks such as like Vietnamese like black coffee or espresso or cappuccino, and they also have some like unique options such as like egg or coconut coffee, which is very like interesting for me. Well, my personal favorite drinks is Americano. It's just coffee with like water, but I always feel very fresh after drinking that type of coffee. And whenever I um visit this coffee shop, I always order a cup of like iced Americano. Um, um, I go there for different reasons. Like for example, sometimes um I went there with my laptop and solve their notebooks to finish my assignments at school. But other time, I also invite some of my friends to come there and gossip about things that happen in our life. And like, and whenever I feel stressed or like under pressure with my studying work at school, I often um go there to like de-stress and recharge my batteries. Um, um, all in all, nothing is like not just a coffee shop for me, and I think that is also was my favorite place that I often like um go there for different purposes, and I think that um everyone should have a place like that where people
Thank you.
can.
Oh my God. I bet that you were dying to hear that, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's have a moment of self-reflection. What do you think about your flow?
Terrible.
Hmm. Anything
Well,
else? I mean, that's something we can agree on, unfortunately. Let's talk about, your journey through these 5 minutes. Do you have an easy start?
well, yes, but first of all, I come up with the idea of talking about new coffee shop in my area, which is like common part two question.
Mm.
But I start to feel very difficult when um and this is out of a year.
Mm. So after the first 30 seconds, you were really, really disoriented, right? But then after the 2 minute mark, what happened?
What?
In the middle of your speech, what happened? You were clearly struggling at the beginning, which was understandable, right? But after 2 minutes, I think that your flow improved a lot. Do you notice that?
Oh yes, because I thought many ideas about
Mm.
what to talk.
But these ideas would only last you 2 more minutes, right?
Oh,
Because at the like 4 minute mark, you started like losing your way as well. Mm. Interesting, right? So, Tang, what did you notice about his flow overall?
Yeah, I agree with you that in the middle of his speech, his flow seemed really bad, much better
Mm.
compared to the beginning. But at the end, I think he chopped a lot, even with um, coming up with a conclusion. Mhm.
Mm. Okay. Well, Tum, I thought that, yeah, I mean, you were clearly going through a rough patch at the beginning. You did not hit the ground running at all. You were fumbling and stuttering and everything in between. And also, I noticed that you had this weird habit of like accentuating your ums and but going through meaning words way too fast. And the same applies to you as well, Tang. Both of
Yeah,
you tend to have this habit of like emphasizing filler words and like sounds like and but when you actually have content, I think that you both tend to overcompensate by, speaking too fast, right? So that's something you need to bear in mind. I want to hear what you want to say. So there's nothing wrong with like enunciating words clearly. You don't have to overcompensate. What you do need to do though is that after pausing and using these fillers, you might want to go through a chunk of words instead of 1 or 2 words at a time. That's the goal, and that's not the same as going overboard with your speaking speed, right? And as for Chum, I think that you were clearly struggling in the first 2 minutes, but then after that you were able to find your groove, and I thought that your description was perfectly understandable. But of course, even all of the ideas that you produced at the time could only keep you going, for as long, right? You were only able to speak fluently for 2 minutes, and then you had to think of other ideas as well. Okay. All right, let's move on then. Now, one more person, and then we're done. Interesting.
Holy hell. This
All right, you have
one.
5 minutes. I don't think that you need to focus on history. You can talk about different things related to history. Now, come on.
Okay, this topic is really difficult for me because I talked about it. I remember I talked about it about like um it was really a month ago. Since sorry, I did my first ever class here, and at then I was given this topic and I was instructed to speak impromptu, and I mean to speak off the cuff for about 3 minutes, and I struggle as hell. Yeah, but now, so meeting this topic again, as someone who prefers writing over speaking, I will admit I will find a blank page far more comfortable than a podium. I think this topic is really difficult, and for me, my whole world is built around the written word rather than the spoken word. And I'm much more comfortable analyzing a history text than I'm being the center of attention, like delivering a speech, especially a 5 minute speech, uh, in front of an audience. So, but I've been asked to speak about this topic, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that um, I would say my love for history is intertwined with my love for writing and words. So when people think of histories, they think of days of battles, of really big, loud events like World War II or the Vietnam War. But as a lexophile, I mean, I'm a lover of words, so I see history in a different place. Uh, I find this topic really interesting in the quiet, tiny artifacts we use every single day. I mean, our language. So, as an English teacher, of course, I'm not a history teacher at all. I don't just teach my students what a word means. I also teach them about the etymology of the word. I mean, where it came from. So, for example, like a word like disaster, you know, I might close this word in my test, right? But it's not just about a bad event. So it really comes from the Latin. You mean the first three letter DIS, or this mean bad? And disaster here. So as far as I remember, it originates from a root called astro, which means star. So in Latin, its original meaning was a bad star. So it was really a fossil, and it tells us that people who first spoke this word may believe that failures were literally related to stars. So that's I would call like the history of a word. And I think that every words we use, like the word celery or window, or maybe even the word goodbye, is maybe like a story from the past we have forgotten. So for lexicophiles, I'm a big love. I have a big love for learning words. So studying a language is also like studying a history. It's a subject is that is not in that in a book. It's alive in our mouths. And my another connection to history comes from my work and my personality. I'm constantly snowed under with work, and my days are blurs of attending endless work-related meetings and managing classrooms, and even sometimes I have to write tests for the school. Yeah, but it's really exhausting for me who I would describe myself as an introvert. And history serves as an emotional solace for me, you know, as I would say a naive writer. I have a deep and profound respect for recording the events throughout the paper. The true heroes of history aren't just the generals. I mean, they are people who kept diaries. Um, and they were the ones writing all
Thank you.
down. Often, yeah.
Okay, self-reflection. What do you think about your performance?
Yeah, at first I hadn't no any idea, so I need to yap a little bit about the struggles that I think I have to go with when dealing with this topic. I remember that I spoke it at the very beginning speaking lesson, my very beginning speaking lessons, and I struggle a lot. So yeah, so I'm just use I think about like my first 30 seconds to buy time to think of ideas and just chat about like the struggles and anything like that. And then I come up with the ideas and then I just let it flow. Yeah, of course, I still find myself a little bit difficult when it comes to controlling my chunks of words and controlling my thoughts.
Okay, Chung, did you find it easy to listen to what he was saying? As in, like, could you like understand what he was talking about?
Um, yes, because like I think that he speaks quite clearly. And
Really?
I can hear like words by words.
Okay. Well, Chung got a really good listening score, so well, I'm gonna trust his judgment for the time being. Well, personally, I thought that it was a bit difficult for me to keep up with what you were saying at times, Tang. But I think that's something that comes with the territory, right? When you're asked to talk about a topic for 5 minutes without any preparation, you tend to mess up your rhythm, every once in a while. Um, so for me, that was understandable. But would you consider what you did today to be better than what you did in the first lesson, or are they like in the same ballpark in terms of fluency and accuracy?
I think for this one, it's a little bit better. I would say a little bit better. It's not much better compared to my previous attempt, like about
Okay,
1 month ago.
okay.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even remember what you did about a month ago. Um, I only asked that question because I wanted you to think about improving yourself constantly. And for someone of your caliber, again, I think that we have gone over this matter a couple of times. You know how to speak, but you really need to work on your discipline because, like, after band 6.5, you know, no one really gives you compliments for your ability to speak English. They want to check whether or not you possess the discipline to speak in appropriate chunks of words. So you need to work on that. I also thought that it was weird that you just kept on focusing on like your personal stories, even though that was a perfectly justifiable approach. I mean, I would recommend you to, perhaps, talk about history, but in a way that is more related to speaking part 3. You can talk about, why history is an important subject and how teachers should deliver history lessons. Like a lot of teachers now still do it in the old-fashioned way, forcing kids to, write down events and key events and key figures for the sake of passing tests. And then you can recommend different ways to tackle this particular subject. You can also compare it to other subjects like science and art. You can also talk about the value of like learning international history instead of the history of your own country, right? Essentially, what I'm trying to say here is that when it comes to this particular method of practice, which is pretty hardcore, I have to be honest, you should do your best to be as flexible as you can, right? So you were flexible enough to keep on speaking for 5 minutes. So I already think that is an impressive thing to do. And I don't think that I would be able to do that without making lots of mistakes myself. It's just that, like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that you should have clear goals with regard to where you want to go. Like when you do the same topic again, in your mind, there should be this goal of you're just doing a better job in one way or another, right? That's all. I still think that it was a bit hard for me to understand what you were saying at times, not because of the fact that your ideas were super complicated, because they were not. They were very straightforward. It was just that your delivery was not sensible, that your chunks were broken into one too many parts, and then you stretched the words out at all the wrong moments. So that exacerbated the situation and that just confused me. That's all. But that's it for today, I guess. Any question?
Not really.
Okay. Well, that was a fun revision session, y'all, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.